Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, back with Bentley. Also, the V team takes a look at the war on gaming. And Governor Bentley's gaming committee, kind of like unicorns.
Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows. Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows.
Let's test your knowledge and see what you've learned so far. What color are the unicorns?
Pink!
They're pink. Where are they dancing?
Rainbows!
Please use one word to describe the texture of their magical fur.
Unicorn's pink. What color's a coward? Yellow. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics, with your host, Bill Brett. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V team. Welcome all.
Hello.
Well, good to be here.
Well, Claire and Jonathan have been inaugurating all week, and we hear it was an exciting time. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But they have been in D.C. and having a great time from what we understand. Governor Robert Bentley was there as well, and we haven't yet seen the gown, but we hope to get pictures. But someone else is back with Governor Bentley, Beth, and that is Cooper Shattuck. Cooper Shattuck was his general counsel, then he went over to the university where he ran the general counsel there. He also oversaw the Gulf State Park deal, and he also had something to do with the
girlfriend
dark money
fund.
group called what?
It was ASCOV, the girlfriend fund,
The
right?
girlfriend fund, Jack. What do you think? He's back in business with the governor.
I mean, there are a lot of qualified attorneys who could go on contract, and it's just interesting to me that he keeps flying so close to the sun here. I mean, if he's not up to something nefarious, he's flying really close, and I'm interested to see what it is that he knows and why the governor's keeping him around.
Well, when we called Susan, they said he's a contract lawyer just like everybody else, but paid by everybody else. But when he left the university, he said he was going back into the private sector.
Well, I guess he went the private sector via Bentley. This is obviously, governors tends to keep the same people orbiting, like Beth says, and there's got to be reasons for that. If you know information and the governor doesn't want you to release the information, why? It's in his best interest to keep you close.
Yeah, he should have kept Spencer Collier a little closer, shouldn't he, Jack?
Yeah. Well, I think it's, Cooper knows where all the bodies are buried. He's the guy with the shovel.
He was the one burying them.
So anyway, and there's also an argument that you want people around you that you trust and who are loyal to you.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, it works both ways.
But he's just worn so many hats, though, is the thing.
He
and
has.
it's, so he's popped from the girlfriend fund to the University of Alabama systems, where all those PayPal payments were.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, he
There's
was
a lot of
$75,000 in PayPal payments
There's
that went to
some
Rebecca
questionable
Mason's
stuff there.
husband.
Yeah, well, and the university, I don't think, was really cognizant of this ASCOV until it landed in the print, and I think then they went, what? Why didn't you tell us about that? And there's still some questionable things there. There are also some questionable things about, I think the university got tired of the bad press that came along with the Gulf Coast deal or Gulf Shores deal and Cooper Shattuck.
Now wasn't ASCOV named in one of those civil suits as well?
It's named in two of them. It's named in the one by Spencer Collier.
That technically kind of drags the university through that, and I don't think they wanted that.
No.
Right.
They're like Alabama Power. The only thing they want you to know is they're always on. They don't want any bad publicity. The gaming committee this week, or not this week, but last week, came out and said that, wow, they had all this time to get their act together, and their deadline was January 31st, and there's just Susan, no way they can get it done.
No, there's no way that, and when with session coming up, and they just can't get it done. The idea for this committee to start with, and this was Bentley's idea, was to get this done, get the recommendations out of the committee before session started. That was the whole idea. Now they've punted the ball to the deadline's now June 30th, which is well after session is over. So that means that we have no recommendations going into session, which is what the idea was to begin with.
But look at the calendar right now. Like the fundraising go is about to start for 2018. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are staring down the barrel at a new governor, a new legislature. They don't want to do anything controversial because they're about to be up for election. And so, I mean, not this governor, thank God, but everyone else in the legislature is. And so I think they're looking at it saying, oh, maybe we should just not rock this boat until we can get through 2018. And like every year or every quadrennium, the disastrous stuff will happen in that 2019 session.
Jack, do you think that these guys are ducking for political reasons or just because they're a bunch of cowards altogether?
What you just said, they're cowards, and they always have been. On this gambling issue, it could have been settled a long time ago, but they refused to give the people the right to vote. So they've created a gaming commission to make a recommendation of how we should go forward. Was that just a disingenuous move on the governor's part to begin with? Because these guys had a deadline, they didn't meet it. Typical Alabama legislature kicked the can down the road.
Well, this sort of reminds me of the unicorns. You know why there are no unicorns? Because when they were getting on the ark, the unicorn said, well, we're going to have a committee to decide who goes. Unicorns didn't make it.
Well, but the thing is, too, with this, you've got this commission, but it doesn't include all the people who really need. I mean, to get something through with gaming, we're going to have Porch Creek at the table. We're going to have Greenetrack at the table. We're going to have, the Baptist Convention at the table. All of these interests, Victoryland, all of these people are going to have to be sitting in the same room and come up with something. Otherwise, they're just going to keep killing everything that happens.
Well, the problem is, and Jack, you and I and all of us have talked about it before, the Porch Creek are going to own this state. I mean, Robbie McGee has said it.
Well, through their contributions alone to people who are in the legislature, it buys their, non-action on a gambling bill.
Oh, and Robbie McGee's president every one of those gaming commission meetings, as well as the Kennys are there with him.
And he said, we will not go through another cycle where we have a governor and an attorney general that is not favorable to our cause. So this is pretty much it.
When they spent, $1 million trying to get a new attorney general?
Yeah, well, that was just a punch.
I can't imagine why they would say they're not favorable to them. Yeah. They're the only ones operating, theoretically.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk to Mr. Winn from Greenetrack later, and I'm sure he'll have something to say about that. We only got about 30 seconds. Craig Ford wants to let the people have early voting, and the Secretary of State says it's a bad idea. What do you think, Beth?
We did this bill when I worked with Representative Melton. I think we need to lift the affidavit on absentee voting and just have a vote-by-mail program.
Jack?
Totally disagree. People should be responsible and go vote on the day of the election. If they can't, they vote absentee.
And if, like the Founding Fathers, they don't have the crops laid by, that's just their own problem, right, Susan?
It is, but let people vote.
All right. We're going to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. Up next is the CEO and president of Greenetrack, Luther Winn.
I'm John Merrill. As your Secretary of State, we saw you at the polls with your photo ID in record numbers on November the 8th. Now let's all work together and make a positive difference for the great state of Alabama.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Our guest today is the CEO and president of Greenetrack, Luther Winn. Thank you, Mr. Winn.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to it. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we appreciate having you here. One of the hot topics these days is what is going to be the future of gaming in Alabama. The Porch Creek basically have a monopoly that I fear and a lot of people fear will give them the power over the entire legislature eventually. And yet you have been in business for some 30 years and and they keep trying to put you out of business.
Yeah, we've been operating electronic bingo beginning with a bill put through the legislature in 2003, and we did that successfully until 2009, 2010 really, when the raids began.
You have an interesting background, and I'd like you to, if you would, share a little bit with our audience about who you are, where you come from, and how you got to where you are now.
Well, I was actually raised in Greene County, went to Alabama A&M University, came back and looking for part-time employment, and Paul Bryant Jr. hired me on as a part-time security guard in 1977. And I moved through the racing department. He opened a track in Texas in '92. Left Alabama for about 9 years. I went out and was director of racing at Gulf Greyhound Park from '92 until '99. Came back to Greenetrack after Bryant had given the ownership of the track to the employees and to and the property was split between the employees and Greene County. When I came back, the facility was about $500,000 in debt. We started trying to pursue other forms of gaming, came to the Alabama legislature. 99 session, 2000, 2001, 2, 3, and the second special session, the session in which Bob Riley said that gaming would not be considered in that session, was the session that we actually passed electronic bingo, Amendment 743 for Greene County authorizing electronic bingo, and we operated successfully.
It seems to me that, and I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this, but looking at the amendment, you have an amendment that does say electronic bingo, and so, or electronic devices to play the game of bingo. But then you have this 6-way test that says bingo can only be played on paper, somebody calling out the names and all that stuff. I mean, how do they square that opinion with what has happened several times in lawsuits or cases against y'all?
Well, first of all, Greene County's legislation is unique.
Right.
Because it says electronics. Now, if you use just a little common sense, in 2003, when our legislation was first introduced, there were bingo being played all over the state of Alabama in various bingo halls. So if we were talking specifically about paper bingo, why would the words electronic be in our amendment? Why would there be a specific definition for bingo? And we did that in the Alabama House. The bill originally was introduced and passed in the Senate, just as all of the other bingo bills in the state of Alabama. But there was a debate in the House in which I added the words electronic and added the definition of bingo and bingo equipment. And after the debate in the House, it had to go back to the Senate to concur with the House. And for the Supreme Court to come back and say electronic doesn't mean electronic is dishonest.
Well, and I've heard the argument that, well, at the time, you were playing it on these like handheld devices or something like that, and that that's not what the machines are today. Well, that's sort of like saying a telephone has to be black, made out of bakelite, hooked up to a thing, to the wall, or a Princess phone. That's the only kind you can, technology evolves, but it says electronic. It doesn't say paper.
It does, and I think the only two places that I'm aware where bingo has actually a definition is in the Greene County legislation and in IGRA. Mm-hmm. And the federal government does not recognize any difference. Bingo is bingo. Only the state of Alabama does that.
Well, and you bring up the Indian Gaming Regulation Act, IGRA, which also says that a tribe cannot play any game on their reservation that's not legal in the state. So if the Supreme Court says it's not legal for you it's not legal for them. But then Luther Strange uses this sort of convoluted argument that, oh, well, we can't do anything about them.
Well, I think that's true that he can't do anything about them, but to make a distinguish between paper bingo in 2003, and I can understand if you want to go back in the old days when there were no electronic bingo.
Right.
But our legislation, was brought about because of the economic conditions of the times that existed in Greene County. We were trying to find a revenue source. And when our bingo passed the legislature, came back to Greene County, there were all kinds of opposition from the Christian groups statewide and from local government. So the advertising that went out stated that we were creating casino-style gaming. So everybody was aware, people who were opposed to the bill, opposed it on the basis that it would create casino-style gaming. And so, we thought that case law would say that the people intentions should be weighed heavily in any decision that the Supreme Court made, but that didn't occur yet.
Well, and then we've only got about a minute, but the lower courts that have upheld that that it is legal, and even recently, the Supreme Court ruled again that they could destroy your machines, and someone says, well, the higher court has a right to do that. This court has not been honest on a lot of things. And so in your case, I fear that they're not following the law, they're following their opinion.
And I totally agree with you. And we've fought this for the last 7 years, and every decision that have gone to the Alabama Supreme Court from the very initial raid, they've always got, when I say they, the Attorney General's office and Strange have always got exactly what they wanted. So we feel that the Alabama Attorney General and the Supreme Court has not been honest, and they have not upheld the law as it is written in Amendment 743.
One of the things I did want to speak with you about today, and it's something that we've written about, something we've questioned. There were some indictments against agents of the Attorney General's office for giving false testimony to get a warrant to come and raid Greenetrack. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it was the second raid after the Attorney General had Judge Houston Brown appointed as a judge for Greene County. The agents, Lieutenant Michael Reese, went to Judge Brown to secure a warrant and gave him false, and this is Judge Brown's, is in his order, false and misleading information. And so the local district attorney for the 17th Judicial District, District Attorney Greg Griggers, took it before the grand jury and indicted Lieutenant Carson, Lieutenant Reese, and the so-called the guy who was giving the expert testimony.
Expert.
Because Judge Brown wanted to know how the games actually worked. So he granted the warrant. And then at the trial, he found out that these people, the Attorney General's staff, had lied. So the district attorney brought charges, brought charges to the grand jury, and they indicted the three individuals. And Attorney General Luther Strange came in, took the case away from the local district attorney, who fought that very vigorously from him taking it over, but he did it anyway, and squashed the case, and it went away. So that's
and it's just unbelievable. We still know that Gene Sisson, who was one of the investigators, he was run out of office because he was assisting the prosecution or assisting the defense in the Mike Hubbard case. And Sonny Reagan, who has prosecuted all these, I'm still surprised Sonny Reagan is walking around the free man.
I am too.
Is there any chance that our incoming U.S. attorney might sit down with you and talk this thing through?
Well, I got a call last night that the Attorney General's, I guess, I don't know how he's not the Attorney General yet, I guess,
Yeah,
but if
designate.
he's confirmed, Senator Sessions has agreed to meet with us and discuss this situation.
That's the first time, right?
This is the first time.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world. The people in Greene County deserve good jobs, and state needs the taxes. So
Exactly.
thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Our guest today has been Luther Winn Jr., CEO and President of Greenetrack. We'll be right back with more news and analysis.
Azia Medical Spa offers a relaxing experience using customized skincare treatments and full line of physician-grade products, with professionals that can assist you in determining which treatment options will best help you achieve your desired results. Azia's massage therapies are popular for rejuvenation and relaxation, as well as relief of tired, aching, and sore muscles. Voted the best medical spa in Birmingham for 3 years in a row, visit aziamedicalspa.com to schedule your appointment.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Jack, you know, we've all talked about this on a number of occasions and said, let the people vote on gaming. Well, they voted in Greene County.
They voted in Greene County. I think they voted in Macon
There you
County.
go.
I think they voted in Houston County. And, you know, all these raids and ridiculous, you know, especially when you look at Greene County and Macon County, who are starved for jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ludicrous.
I mean, when did it become, and I guess I'm confused at what the Republican Party is anymore, but nationally, the Republican Party has never been against gaming.
And I've been in the party a lot longer than probably most of the people on the Alabama Supreme Court who are obviously worried about being reelected.
Yeah.
Gambling was never a big deal. You know, we didn't have it, but
Well, it's manufactured controversy.
it was never a position of the party that we were anti-gambling.
I mean, let's face
Till
it.
some of the religious kooks got on the state committee.
Well, President Trump, you know, he took him on pretty good about this deal when he had his casinos. And the other thing is, Beth, I mean, we know for a fact that Sheldon Adelson, from the Sands, one of the richest men in America, has backed Republican causes right and left.
Yeah, gambling money's never been bad when it's gone into their campaign coffers.
Yeah.
The only bad money here apparently is Victoryland and Greenetrack because the legislators take Porch Creek coming and going.
Yeah, they do. They do. And they, well, you know, because they're the big dogs. You know, back when Mr. McGregor was on top of the world, everybody went to him, and now they go to Robbie McGee and the Kennys. You know, it's just disingenuous. And Luther Strange is taking plenty of money from the Republican, I mean, the, what was the thing, the Attorney General's Association?
RAGA.
Oh, RAGA, that gets gambling money all the time. I want to go back to something on voting. We have a gentleman over in Tuscaloosa, Mr. Stefan Lewis, and he's running for mayor, and he's got some pretty good ideas. There's just one big problem, Beth. He's a felon. He can't vote.
Got a little possession charge back in '92. I mean, I would encourage him to go through the paperwork and try to get his voting rights restored. And anybody who's watching the show who has a felony on their record, get your voting rights restored. But you know, the thing is, like, this is one of the biggest, most systematic disenfranchising things we have in our culture because there's so much of an inadequacy in how we pay for justice in this country. I think it's ridiculous that you lose your right to vote.
Well, Susan, I mean, most of the people don't vote anyway.
That's true. Most of them don't. And I have to agree with Beth on that. You know, something that you did 20 years ago, if you can get it undone, get it undone. The only issue I have with this gentleman is he should have thought of this before he put his hat out for mayor, to run for mayor. I mean, this is some housekeeping he should have gotten done. I believe he was working on it, but he never finished it.
Yeah, he started in 2008 and didn't finish. But I think the interesting thing, Jack, is, you know, the state of the city of Tuscaloosa, they can't do anything about it. The guy can end up on the ballot without a serious legal challenge.
Well, there's a reason that felons are not allowed to vote or possess firearms. On certain crimes, I think you might be right. The voting rights should be restored. after a certain period of time. But having him on the ballot is going to be very interesting.
He can't even vote for himself.
No, well, you know, I'd vote for me if I could. But the thing, and I agree with Jack on this felon thing, I mean, it goes back to British common law, but where it really meant something if you couldn't vote.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you commit felonies, there needs to be harsh punishment. But
Absolutely.
it is what
You've
it is.
paid your debt to society. It's over. I mean, a drug charge in 92 isn't the same thing as, like, I don't know, 23 felony ethics indictments. Like,
Right.
it's not the
Right.
same.
No.
It's apples and oranges.
Right, yeah. I agree.
But there's also a problem here in that when he goes and applies to run for office, anybody that applies to run, there is no checking mechanism there
Right.
to say, you know, is this a valid entry
Right, and
or
he
not?
has to swear on the...
You don't have to be registered to vote to run for office.
You have to be a qualified voter. That's the law. It
Ooh,
says
I hope
that
Chelsea
you're-
Manning doesn't want to go vote. He'll be real confused about that one.
You have to have, it says right in there, qualified, you have to be qualified.
Right, but you don't have to be registered.
No,
is my
you don't
point.
have to be registered,
Because
you're right.
I'll look up candidates to see if they're registered to vote, and that's always one of the first things on an opposition candidate.
No, yeah, well, that's all right. There's a lot of folks that don't register to vote. They should be whipped, but they don't. I hate to beat gambling to death on this show, but there's just so much about it. And we were going back to this. Josh Moon wrote a column this week about Riley's war on bingo. And Beth, it all goes back to money, it sounds like to me. Who's paying who?
It does. And, you know, in a lot of this, remember, there were a couple of big groups that funded the Democratic Party for a long time. You had the AEA, you had Milton McGregor, and, you know, the Trial Lawyers Association. And so I think part of this, too, was saying, okay, they're looking down the road at storming the State House plan. Let's get rid of anybody that could fund our opposition, and that's
Sure.
what they've done.
Well, I mean, Riley, for 5 years, sat in the governor's office and patted Milton McGregor on the back, gave him awards and all that. And then here comes Brian Taylor, and all of a sudden, it's illegal. That seems a little... I mean, the whole declaration, the emergency declaration that Brian Taylor did was a little ludicrous.
Yeah,
Come
well,
on.
anyway, Brian's his own...
Little Boy Scout.
He's whatever.
It was probably Mississippi Indians breathing down Brother Riley's neck, which caused him to act the way he did. That, and the rumor is that when Milton McGregor did not want to hire Rob Riley to be one of his lawyers, he told the governor, I've got plenty of lawyers. Well, shortly after that, Victoryland got raided. So
Would have been a whole lot cheaper to hire Rob Riley than it would.
well, it would have
I
been.
don't know. Rob Riley might have done more damage than help as a staff
But,
attorney.
you know, like his father, he has great hair. He was there every day to support his friend, Mike Hubbard, when he was on trial. I mean,
I think he was there to analyze what his dad was going to testify
yeah,
to.
well, I think there's a lot more to it than that. But listen, this state will never be safe from corruption, in my opinion, as long as the Rileys have any power, Billy Canary, and that whole bunch that stood around Mike Hubbard and praised him
Kiss the
like he was a superstar. Well, we're gonna have to leave it right there. Thank you for watching The V. You watch us because we watch them.